The difference between WWE and UFC is an extraordinary story that shocked Americans. Welcome to Fights, the ultimate home of UFC breaking news, shocking updates, and every story that sets the MMA universe on fire. Stay tuned because here the real action begins. For years, Americans have been glued to two of the most electrifying spectacles in combat sports entertainment: WWE and UFC. Both capture millions of viewers, both sell out arenas, both create legends, yet the difference between the two has become one of the most extraordinary revelations in sports history. It is a difference that shocked fans across the country as they realized what separates scripted theater from raw violence, what makes a storyline fight different from a career defined by real blood, sweat, and fear. The extraordinary story begins with the way Americans grew up consuming combat sports. For decades, WWE, once known as WWF, ruled television with larger-than-life characters like Hulk Hogan, The Rock, and Stone Cold Austin. These icons were superheroes and villains in a never-ending soap opera where every feud, every betrayal, every championship was part of an elaborate script. Yet millions of fans believed, with every bone in their body, that what they were watching was real. Chairs smashed, bodies flew off steel cages, blood spilled in the ring, and the crowd screamed as though they were witnessing genuine carnage. In many ways, WWE created a generation of believers who thought fighting could be both brutal and entertaining at the same time. Then came UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, an entirely different beast born not from scripts, but from raw competition. Unlike WWE, the UFC was no play, no storyline, no pre-written ending. It was men and women stepping into a locked cage, prepared to risk their bodies, and sometimes even their lives, for victory. UFC introduced America to the true violence of combat sports, where bones break, where fighters are knocked out cold, and where one mistake can end a career. The shock came when fans realized this was not entertainment theater. This was the most unforgiving test of human endurance and fighting skill. What truly stunned Americans was when they saw legends cross over between the two worlds. Brock Lesnar, one of WWE's biggest superstars, walked into the UFC and proved he could dominate for real. He became heavyweight champion, not because of a script, but because of sheer size, strength, and wrestling ability. Ronda Rousey, who broke barriers in UFC, later joined WWE, carrying her real fighting aura into the scripted universe. These crossovers expose the reality of both worlds. WWE thrives on spectacle, storylines, and entertainment, while UFC thrives on real fights, rankings, and titles that cannot be faked. The shock was seeing just how different the two realities are, while still being connected by blood, sweat, and fame. The difference goes even deeper in the way the athletes live their lives. A WWE superstar trains for performance, timing, and choreography. They know their spots, they know when to fall, when to hit, and how to protect their opponent while making it look violent. In UFC, however, no one is protecting you. No one is making sure you land safely. Every punch, every elbow, every choke is real, and the damage is permanent. Fighters walk out of the octagon with broken noses, swollen eyes, and concussions. That contrast between staged pain and real suffering shocked fans who once thought WWE was the peak of danger. Americans learned that while WWE performers risk injury through stunts, UFC fighters risk long-term health and even their lives every single time they step into the cage. Economically, the shock runs even deeper. WWE is built on entertainment deals, merchandise, and scripted long-running feuds that guarantee fan loyalty. UFC is built on pay-per-views, real rankings, and the hunger of fighters who know one loss could erase their chance at glory. A WWE superstar can reinvent themselves with a new character, a new storyline, and rise back to the top. A UFC fighter cannot reinvent a knockout loss or erase a devastating submission defeat. The reality of consequence is brutal and permanent. That realization changed the way millions of Americans viewed combat sports forever. The extraordinary story also exposed how the fans themselves reacted to the truth. For years, children and adults alike argued about whether WWE was real. Some believed every slam, every punch, every scream. Others insisted it was just entertainment. But when UFC exploded in popularity and Dana White turned it into a global empire, the truth was undeniable. WWE is performance. UFC is war. And yet, ironically, both coexist because fans crave both. Americans learn that sometimes they want the drama of WWE, and sometimes they want the raw chaos of UFC. This duality is what makes the story extraordinary because it revealed not just the difference between the two organizations, but the difference between what people desire: entertainment and reality. Perhaps the most shocking revelation came when fans compared the consequences of being in each world. WWE legends often walk away with broken bodies from years of scripted bumps, but UFC fighters face brain trauma, nerve damage, and scars that never heal. Both careers shorten lives, but for different reasons. The danger in WWE comes from repetition and performance, while the danger in UFC comes from pure brutality. That Americans saw both up close shook them deeply. It forced a national conversation about health, about the price of fame, and about the cost of glory in combat sports. And yet, despite the shock, despite the pain, Americans love both. They fill arenas, they stream pay-per-views, they chant names of their heroes, whether scripted or real. They have come to accept that WWE and UFC are two sides of the same coin: entertainment through violence. The difference is extraordinary, but the love for both is unshakable. In the end, what shocked Americans the most was realizing that they don't have to choose. They can cheer for The Undertaker on Monday night and for Conor McGregor on Saturday night. They can respect scripted legends and real fighters at the same time. The extraordinary story is that both worlds now stand side by side, feeding off each other, creating headlines that merge fantasy with reality. The difference between WWE and UFC is more than sports. It's a cultural phenomenon. One is performance art wrapped in violence. The other is pure violence wrapped in competition. Together, they define modern American entertainment, and together, they shocked a nation that once believed everything it saw on TV. Now fans know the truth, and the truth is extraordinary. Thanks for watching Fights, your front row seat to every knockout, comeback, and breaking UFC moment. Like, share, and subscribe to never miss the next big fight.